The first scream didn't come from her lips. It came from the fabric. A soft, tearing sound, the split of silk beneath her trembling fingers, and that was the night everything changed. She was Mei Lin. To the world, she was just a seamstress. But to those who truly looked into her eyes, she was a wound stitched shut. San Francisco, 1903. The city glittered for the rich, for the white, for the ones who had never scrubbed blood off their hands after the ship's voyage. The streets reeked of sweat, coal, and the promise of gold that never came true for people like her. She lived in the narrow alleys of Chinatown, in a room no bigger than a coffin. By day, she stitched gowns for the wealthy women who came to Madame Wexler's atelier, women with powdered faces, hands soft as roses, laughter like glass. And every day, she told herself, "Be silent, May. Be useful. Be invisible." But invisibility has its limits. Before we continue with the video, kindly drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is over there, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Madame Wexler was a tall English woman draped in perfume and pride. She called May her little Shanghai girl. "Your fingers are quick," she'd say. "But remember, dear, precision is your salvation. We can't afford mistakes." May would bow her head. "Yes, madam. Mistakes." That was the word they used for people like her, immigrants, laborers, women who spoke softly so they wouldn't be hit. But her stitches were flawless. Even the English officers' wives whispered about her talent. She could make fabric breathe. She could make velvet look like water. And she listened. That was her other gift. When the wives of the city's elite came to the shop, they gossiped as if she were deaf. They spoke of their husbands, businessmen, politicians, factory owners, men who built their wealth on the backs of Chinese workers. May never said a word, but she remembered everything. Before San Francisco, there was Shanghai, a memory that burned like incense and blood. She'd been 15 when they came. The British traders, loud with gin and arrogance, needing cheap hands for their textile partners in America. They promised silver and food. Her father believed them. He never saw her again. On the voyage, one of the men, a red-faced officer named Henry Locke, came to her bunk at night. He smelled of rum and tobacco. His boots echoed down the hall like gunshots. When he left, she couldn't speak for 3 days. She still remembered his laugh. It was the same laugh she heard years later in San Francisco, at a garden party she attended as Madame Wexler's servant. Henry Locke, now a respected British trade official, clinking glasses with American elites. "Ah, the East," he'd boomed. "They call it mysterious. I call it profitable." The same man, same face, same laugh. Her fingers tightened around the tray she carried. A single drop of red wine spilled on her hand, and she smiled faintly. That night, in her attic room, she whispered to the walls, "I remember you, Mr. Locke." It began with a spool of black thread. At the dockyards, May had a friend, Li Shin, a wiry man with quick eyes. He worked at the powder mills, packing gunpowder for the military shipments. One evening, she found him outside the mill, coughing into a rag spotted with black dust. "They don't pay me for air," he joked weakly. "So I breathe their poison for free." She pressed a coin into his hand. "I need some of it," she said quietly. He blinked. "Gunpowder?" "Yes, the little." He hesitated. "What for?" She looked up, and for the first time, he saw the cold, steady light in her eyes. "Decoration," she said. "For the rich." He didn't ask again. Over the next few weeks, she began her masterpiece, curtains and upholstery for the grand houses of Nob Hill. The orders came in through Madame Wexler, who bragged to her clients that every stitch was sewn by the clever Shanghai girl. What they didn't know was that inside every hem, every tassel, every velvet fold, May stitched threads soaked with fine black powder, hidden veins of death waiting for a spark. By late summer, the British consul was hosting a ball. A celebration of progress, they called it, toasting the railroad, the mills, the empire's reach. Madame Wexler's atelier had been commissioned to design the draperies, the upholstery, the table runners, even the stage curtains. May worked for days without sleep. Her fingers bled, but she never paused. She hummed quietly as she sewed. When the work was done, she stood before the great hall, glittering chandeliers, polished floors, velvet as deep as midnight, and felt a strange calm settle over her. This was where it would happen, where her silence would end. She visited Li Shen one last time. He was thinner, coughing harder. "You know this could kill them all," he rasped. She nodded. "Then let it. What about you?" She smiled faintly. "I've been dead for years." She handed him a letter, folded neatly. "If I don't return by morning, burn this." He looked at her, really looked. "You could leave, May. You could start over." Her eyes softened. "No one starts over in this world. We only finish what others have begun." The carriages arrived at dusk. Music spilled from the hall, violins, laughter, clinking glasses. The city's elite had gathered, merchants, officers, socialites, and men who'd never lifted anything heavier than a cigar. May stood in the shadows, watching through the glass as they admired her work. Exquisite. "Look at that craftsmanship. Who made this, Mrs. Wexler?" "Oh, a little Chinese girl," Madame Wexler replied with a careless laugh. "Cheap, but talented. They're born with nimble fingers, you know." May's lips curved into a ghost of a smile. Inside her pocket was a single silver lighter, a gift from Henry Locke himself, engraved with his initials. She'd stolen it from his coat at the last party. What do you think she's about to do? Pause for a second and drop your prediction in the comments, because when the spark hits, there's no turning back. The first flame was small. It began like a secret. Just a flicker between her fingers, the silver lighter clicking open, the brief kiss of fire trembling in the wind, and then gone. No one saw her. No one ever did. Mei Lin moved through the servants' corridor with the same quiet grace that had kept her alive for years. Behind the walls, music pulsed like a living thing. Violins, laughter, applause. The elite of San Francisco's British and American circles were gathered in the ballroom, drunk on champagne and their own importance. They danced beneath chandeliers of crystal and gold, and above their heads, sewn into every velvet curtain, every hanging drape, slept the threads of her vengeance. Gunpowder, fine and hungry, waiting to breathe. In the hallway, May crouched by a tall candelabrum near the stage curtains. She pressed the lighter against the wick, the tiny flame catching, stretching, dancing. A small thread of black smoke curled upward, sweet and faint. She stepped back, eyes fixed on the pattern of silk as the flame crawled, feeding itself quietly, tasting the air. It was beautiful, almost tender. And for a moment, just one, she saw her father's face in the fire. The way he'd smiled when he gave her that first spool of thread as a child. "You'll make beauty from nothing," he'd said. She had. Only now, beauty had teeth. Behind her, a voice. "Mai?" She froze. Li Shen stood at the corridor's end, his cap pulled low, his chest heaving. He'd come after her. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. He glanced past her, saw the small, spreading flame, and his eyes went wide. "May, this will kill everyone in there." She straightened slowly. "That's the point. They're not all guilty," he whispered. "Some are just. Just what?" Her voice was sharp, low. "Just rich enough to own men like us? Just silent while others bleed?" He swallowed. The flame was spreading faster now, licking the edges of the velvet. "You'll die too," he said quietly. She looked at him, really looked, and her expression softened. "Then maybe I'll finally rest." She turned away. Inside, the orchestra played louder, trying to rise above the heat building behind the curtains. Henry Locke stood near the bar, boasting to a group of American businessmen about the civilizing influence of trade with China. "Commerce brings order," he declared, raising his glass. "Without discipline, the East would eat itself alive." They laughed. Then a faint pop. Then another. Locke turned his head. "What was that?" A servant hesitated. "Probably the lamps, sir." But it wasn't the lamps. It was silk. With a roar, the curtains ignited, fire spilling upward like a dragon freed from chains. The music stopped. Screams sliced through the laughter. Women stumbled, clutching their skirts. "Fire!" someone shouted. The chandeliers above began to melt, crystal droplets raining down like molten tears. Chaos consumed the hall. The polished floors cracked under the heat. The gilded mirrors turned black. May moved through the smoke like a ghost, her small figure almost invisible amid the frenzy. People pushed and clawed for the doors, but the fire spread too fast. The air thickened with burning perfume and silk. She saw Madame Wexler collapse near the stairwell, her gown aflame, screaming for help. For a heartbeat, May hesitated, and then she turned away. She found Henry Locke by the shattered windows, his face blistered, coughing. He saw her through the smoke. "You?" he choked. "Help me." She stepped closer. The light of the flames reflected in her eyes, calm, unbroken. "Do you remember Shanghai?" she asked softly. He blinked, confused, choking. What are you?" She leaned close enough for him to see her clearly. "I was 15. Recognition hit him. His mouth opened, but no sound came, only smoke. And then the balcony above him collapsed, burying him in molten debris. The fire spread beyond control. The sky turned orange, the smoke visible even from the harbor. Carriages overturned, horses screamed, glass shattered as one of the grandest houses on Nob Hill became an inferno. People said it looked like hell had opened its mouth. May stood across the street, the glow painting her face gold. Her hair was wild, her dress singed. She didn't move, didn't speak. Li Xin found her there, coughing, his clothes covered in soot. "You did it," he rasped. "You really did it." She didn't answer. "They'll come for you," he said. "I know." He stared at her, at the way the fire reflected in her eyes, the strange peace there. "Come with me, please. We can hide." She shook her head. "Go, Li. You deserve to live. What about you?" She smiled faintly. "I already have." The sun rose over a city of ash. The mansion was gone, a black skeleton of charred beams and twisted glass. Officials combed through the ruins, muttering about faulty wiring and unfortunate accidents. But whispers spread through Chinatown, whispers of a woman who'd stitched fire into fabric, a ghost in silk. They said she'd been seen walking toward the harbor that night, her clothes torn, her hands burned, carrying a single spool of black thread. Some said she boarded a ship heading east. Others swore she was caught, imprisoned, or executed. No one knew for sure. But in the weeks that followed, letters began appearing in the mailboxes of the city's wealthiest families, unsigned, written in neat, elegant script. Every stitch remembers. Months later, a reporter named Edward Blake received an anonymous package. Inside, a small notebook wrapped in silk, the edges scorched. He opened it. Inside, written in Chinese and English, were pages of confession, May's words. "They call me a seamstress, but I am only what they made me. They wanted beauty, and I gave it to them, a beauty that burns." Blake published her story in the San Francisco Chronicle. Within days, it became legend. And somewhere across the Pacific, a woman stepped off a ship into the fog of Shanghai, a needle in her pocket and a new name on her tongue. The sea was gray that morning, the kind of gray that swallowed everything: sky, horizon, memory. A small steamer cut across the Pacific, its deck wet with rain and salt. Among the passengers, wrapped in a shawl in silence, sat a woman with a bandaged hand. Her fingers trembled slightly as she held a spool of thread, black thread, always black. She called herself Lena Wu now. The name meant nothing. It was a mask, a new stitch in the tapestry of escape. But underneath, she was still Mei Lin, the seamstress, the ghost of Shanghai. Every time the waves struck the hull, she heard the fire again, the crackle, the screams, the voice of Henry Locke choking on smoke. She'd wanted peace. Instead, she carried echoes. The ship docked at night. Shanghai was a blur of mist and lantern light. It was 1904 now, and the city was a wound, carved open by foreign powers, half Chinese, half European, all restless. Steam whistles echoed from the docks. Rickshaws clattered through puddles, and the smell of opium hung heavy in the air. May walked alone through the French concession, past buildings that looked like stolen dreams, English architecture on stolen land. She found work easily. The foreigners still needed their silk repaired, their gowns altered. The irony wasn't lost on her. She stitched quietly, kept her head low. Her new employer, a French woman named Madame Dubois, called her the polite one. No one knew who she really was. But in Chinatown, whispers had already followed her across the sea. A woman who burned a house full of devils. A ghost who sews death into curtains. The Seamstress of Shanghai. And as the stories grew, so did her legend. One night, Madame Dubois hosted a small gathering. Guests in jeweled gowns, foreign laughter echoing through the parlor. As May hemmed a dress in the back room, she overheard them. "Did you hear about that fire in San Francisco?" "Oh yes, dreadful business. Some Chinese girl, they say. What was her name again? Something like May? Lin? Who can tell?" They laughed. Something inside her snapped, not in rage, but in sorrow. They didn't even remember her name. All that pain, all that fire, and she was just a rumor to them. She stared at her hands, trembling above the fabric. She'd stitched death, but what had it changed? The powerful still dined, still laughed, still owned everything. Was vengeance ever enough? Weeks later, while closing the shop, May heard a knock. Outside stood a tall man in a dark coat, hat pulled low. He spoke perfect Chinese. "You're Lena Wu?" "Yes," she said cautiously. He handed her a letter stamped with the insignia of the British consulate. "They're asking questions about San Francisco, about the fire." Her heartbeat faltered. "Why tell me?" she asked. "Because," the man said softly, "my sister died in that fire. She was one of the servants, not one of them." He met her eyes. They called her a mistake. The room went still. May's breath caught in her throat. "I didn't mean..." He raised a hand. "I know. She followed the rich to America, hoping for better. She died serving them. You gave her justice." She stared at him, stunned. "She always loved stories," he said. "Now, hers lives through you." He turned to leave, then paused. "But the consulate will not stop searching. You should disappear again." When he was gone, May sat alone for a long time, the letter unopened in her lap. Outside, the city hummed, alive, cruel, and different. May moved again, deeper into Shanghai, near the old walled city. She opened a tiny shop under another false name, the House of Silk. People came to her for repairs, for dresses, for stories. And every piece she made had a secret, a single thread stitched in black, a symbol known only to her. Not for vengeance this time, for memory. When she sewed, she whispered the names of those forgotten, her father. The girls who never made it off the ship. Li Xin, who'd vanished after the fire. Madame Wexler's servants who burned unseen. Every stitch was a prayer. And soon, her shop became a quiet sanctuary for the working poor, seamstresses, dockhands, women with bruised wrists. She taught them how to sew, how to mend, how to hide power in plain sight. 10 years passed. Shanghai changed, grew brighter, louder, more foreign. One evening in 1913, an English newspaper ran a small article, "Survivor of Nob Hill Fire Found Dead in London. Henry Locke's widow confesses guilt over deaths of Chinese laborers, takes her own life." May read it by candlelight, her eyes soft but unreadable. She folded the paper neatly and slipped it beneath a spool of silk. Justice had its ways, sometimes slow, sometimes silent. In her final years, she was known simply as Madame Lin. The ghost had become a teacher. Her apprentices adored her. They said her hands could fix anything, even heartbreak. One stormy night, as thunder rolled over the bund, she sat by the window, finishing a gown. The fabric shimmered, red silk, the color of both love and blood. When she tied the last knot, she whispered to it, "Be free." Then she set the needle down, smiled faintly, and closed her eyes. By morning, the rain had stopped. The city woke to sunlight breaking through the mist. Inside the house of silk, they found her seated at the table, peaceful, her hands folded on the fabric. And across the chest of the gown she'd made, embroidered in perfect golden letters, were 3 words every stitch remembers. Years later, when the war came and Shanghai burned again, people claimed to see her, a woman in red silk walking through the flames, untouched, carrying a spool of black thread. They said she appeared in workshops and factories, whispering in the ears of women bent over sewing machines, "Don't let them forget you." The legend spread beyond China, across oceans, through generations. In San Francisco, an artist painted her face on the walls of Chinatown, a woman half shadow, half flame, eyes fierce and kind. Beneath the mural in both English and Chinese were the same words that began the legend, the Seamstress of Shanghai, 1903. If you've watched this far, respect. Type "I'll remember her" in the comments. Because Mei Lin's story isn't just about revenge, it's about dignity, memory, and the fire inside every silenced voice. And if this story moved you, don't just scroll. Subscribe for more true and forgotten tales of rebellion, resilience, and revenge. Let's make sure no name, no story ever fades again.